Hello guys! Matagal-tagal din ako nawala. But, I'm back for now. Today, mag-update lang ako ng mga books I've purchased in the last month since my last book haul. And I'm also going to do a recap of every book that I've read since Nietzsche. I haven't read a lot of books since then kasi I was studying for the bar exam. And even after the bar exam, medyo nahirapan ako to come back into pleasure reading. Like, sobrang exhausted ko kasi during that time. I am done with philosophy books for now. I had this entire phase na nag-start last year where all I read are classic or philosophy book. I shifted to fantasy for now. Medyo nasa fantasy phase ako. Before I talk about the books that I've read, I first wanted to show you the recent additions in my bookshelf. I bought this, I think last year ko pa siyang binili. I've been watching a lot of C-dramas, so naturally medyo na-curious ako with Chinese government, Chinese history. So bumili ako ng book to read about it. Like, bias aside, I think China and Chinese culture especially, or Chinese history, has one of the most broad history, diverse culture in the entire world. Kasi their civilization has been around for how many years now? Like, itong napakalaking dictionary na parang encyclopedia in one. Very, very old. I think early 1900 siya. Kung titignan mo yung flags of the world dito, nandun na yung China. So, existing na siya even back, way back. Konti pa lang yung flags of the world at the time. So, konti pa lang yung independent countries. China after Mao. The Rise of a Superpower. It's written by Frank Dicotter. I've also read this already and finished it. So, sa dulo ng video, I'll talk about this. And then, I also have this controversial book. This is called The Marcos Legacy by Cecilio Aurelio, PhD. So, if you're from the Philippines, if familiar ka sa Filipino history, the Marcos regime, very controversial, very worth studying in my opinion. And then, I also have this, which is a self-help book. This is a very famous self-help book. Ang daming may favorite book nito. Tapos, yung pinaka-last, it was recommended many times sa many YouTubers that I saw here sa YouTube. Tapos, it was recommended also by Miss Tony Gonzaga, who is a TV personality in the Philippines. Not that I'm a fan of hers, it's just somehow I stumbled across a video where she talked about this book. So I purchased it, I read it, didn't like it. Again, I'll be talking about this sa end ng video. So finally, nasa fantasy na tayo. I have 4 books here. All of these are recent purchases kasi nga I read Plato, Dialogues of Plato, before the current book that I'm reading right now. And after noon, I was just so exhausted. I didn't want to read philosophy again for now. So that was the end of this phase. So now I'm shifting to fantasy. The first book that I have, which is also the current book that I'm reading, is this one. It has one of the most beautiful covers na nakita ko. This is called The Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and this is written by Su Lin Tan. Apparently, it's a national bestseller. This wasn't in my plan to buy. And then, nung nabasa ko yung synopsis, it's about this moon goddess. And the story is very familiar. I have been, like I said, I have been watching a lot of C-dramas, but more on the fantasy C-drama than contemporary C-drama. So, wuxia, shansha. And this story is very familiar. If you don't know, the Mid-Autumn Festival, it's centered on the myth of the moon goddess and her lover. So this one is a retelling of that story. The main protagonist is the daughter of the moon goddess, hence the title. Next book I have is the first book from the Mistborn series. This is by Brandon Sanderson. When I try to look for adult fantasy books, and I've read a lot of YouTubers, like top 10 favorites, top 10 recommended fantasy adult books, Brandon Sanderson, siya yung laging lumalabas. And among others. So, nag-research ako. I came across his video here sa YouTube where he recommended the first book to read, like in chronological order of books to read. Na-recommend niya na if you're new to him, to read the Mistborn trilogy, the original Mistborn trilogy first. And this is the first book from that. Medyo nalito ako when I was looking for this sa bookstore. Nakalagay kasi siya sa spine, the Mistborn trilogy 1. So obviously this is the first book. And when I saw the title, ang sabi lang niya, Mistborn. Pero if you look it up online, I think The Final Empire, yung first book. So medyo nalito ako, but upon researching more, I realized na it's interchangeable. So Mistborn or The Final Empire is the first book from the Mistborn trilogy. I was already reading this. If hindi ko pa to binabasa, I would have started with this. But I cannot wait to read Brandon Sanderson. I heard great things. The next book is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Ang laki. A super thick book. I think this is 700 pages. 800 pages. Pero kung tutuusin, this is a standalone book. Hahatiin mo siya sa dalawang libro if kunwari duology siya. Hindi siya ganun kahaba. Yun na lang yung iisipin ko when I read this. Actually, I started reading this book as an ebook last year. Kaso, I'm not really an ebook reader. So, sabi ko, if I was going to read this, dapat physical copy. And then, when I started looking for reviews, maraming nagsasabi na it's not very good. Especially for those who are huge fans of fantasy books. Sabi nila, this is not worth the read. There are a few people na nagsabi na this is one of the best books they've read. Hindi ko matanggihan yung cover. Ang ganda-ganda niya. Like, kahit hindi ko siya basahin, ang ganda niya to collect. I mean, it's a dragon. I love dragons. So, binili ko na din. I thought, wala namang mawawala. Basahin ko na lang din siya. Then, pag hindi ko nabitan, then it's fine. I can discontinue or I can just say na hindi ko siya nagustuhan. The last book I have, I got on sale from, where did I get this from? National Bookstore, pero online. This is called A Hero Born by Jin Yong. This is a translated copy. It's a wuxia novel. It's a martial arts. It's very C-drama, fantasy based or vibe. So I'm really excited to read this. Apparently, this is well loved in China. I don't know about this translated copy though. Some say na the original text is better to read than the translated one, that the translated one didn't really capture the heart of the original book. But I don't know how to read Mandarin, so translated it is. So now we have reached this part. I'll talk about the books that I recently read. I'll start with this one, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I did not like this because nababawan lang ako sa credibility ng author. So apparently he's a yoga teacher. There's not that there's anything wrong with that. May point naman siya sa mga explanations niya and sa sinasabi niya. And actually, I do agree to some of it on some extent. Pero the main gist of his philosophy is create your own illusion of life. So, parang out-of-body experience. You have your alter ego. And that is the reality. Sa akin kasi, that's just escaping reality. That's not facing your problem. Parang tinatakasan mo lang. Basta medyo marami naman siyang inexplain. It's just yun lang yung gist na nakuha ko and yung overall arc ng pinipreach niya. So, hindi ako nag-agree dun sa part na yon. And since yun yung huge chunk ng libro na to, masasabi ko lang na, ayun, hindi ko siya nagustuhan as much as other people did. But I do understand why some people resonated with this book, and I do respect those people. It's just personally, it's not for me. Since I've read a lot of self-help books, philosophy books, mas may better books to read than this. The next book that I read, actually after Nietzsche, ito yung nabasa ko. This is the Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa. Itong libro na to could potentially be my favorite book. Up until the middle of this book, ito na probably yung favorite book ko. I really resonated with this book, with his writing. It's very personal. Medyo magulo and disoriented, pero relatable. I just like how disorganized he was. May mga libro na pag kalat-kalat yung topic, medyo nakaka-off. Pero with this one, kasi medyo naging artsy and creative yung pagiging kalat-kalat niya. So, I really appreciated that. Kaso lang, it's only good for 100 pages. Beyond that, yung magulong thought process niya, nahawa na din ako. Nalito na rin ako to the point na nainis na ako kasi it sounded like he was already complaining and ranting. They felt more like diary entries rather than aphorisms. I still love this book though. I still recommend this book. Nasayangan ako kasi it could potentially be my favorite book. Pero yun nga, kulang. China After Mao by Frank Dicotter. Nakakapagod siyang basahin. Para siyang pinagsiksik na crash course ng history ng China. Like, thousands and thousands of years. Tapos siniksik siya sa isang libro. Very informative. Ang dami mo talagang malalaman. Pero hindi ko siya recommend basahin kung first time. Kasi like, jam-packed of information na nakakaantok siya. And wala na akong ma-absorb sa sobrang dami ng information. And sobrang, ang bilis ng transition from this year to that year, from this generation to that generation. So, ang hirap na, kailangan mo siyang isa-isahin talaga or kailangan mo siya talagang i-absorb or treat it like a textbook na kailangan mong mag-create ng notes to fully digest this book. Pero kung pleasure reading lang, mahirap siyang intindihin. So, hindi ko siya masyadong na-appreciate. But for the book and for what it is, I really respect it. It's just not really pleasurable to read at all. Next is Dialogues of Plato by, of course, Plato. May 5 dialogues dito. Apology, Credo, Phaedo, Symposium, and Republic. Napagod akong basahin to kasi nakakalito siya. Tapos, medyo inefficient yung pagkaka-explain. It's not really conducive for learning. Parang sinadya siyang paguluhin or nahirapan mag-explain si Plato. What I mean by that is, para kasing wala siyang outline. Like, di ba, para siyang parallel lang na plot, or topic. Instead na plot, then you have the subplot, and then discussion. Magulo siya, hindi siya naka-arrange, so mahirap siyang intindihin. Tapos, ang dami niyang binigay na example na pointless. Tapos, hindi rin siya ganun ka-exact to the point. I imagine it like a hexagon. The problem is the hexagon. Tapos yung arguments ni Plato, it's a circle. And although a circle fits inside the hexagon, hindi niya nakuha yung every point, every side of a hexagon. So although na-explain niya, parang kulang. And hindi ako na-convince. But it's a very interesting read, especially since, you know, ang daming ideas that grows out of Plato's philosophy. Especially yung Republic, yun yung pinakamagulo. I think my favorite one is Symposium, where he talked about love, and the rest, sakto lang. Probably for in-depth discussion of this book, I'll create a different video, maybe, pag sinipag ako. By the way, book discussions yung tawag ko, not book reviews, because I am not qualified to make book reviews, and I'm a mood reader, so I also look at how a book is written, like the technical perspective, pero I always consider also the feeling I get when I read a book. So if hindi siya pleasurable or hindi ko siya na-enjoy or nainis ako or naantok ako, then naapektuhan yung rating. So instead of naming it a book review, I'll just name it book discussion. So yun yung essence nung titling of my videos.